let's get into the actual project file. So the last track that I played is called Tearout. And I have the project file here. We can kind of quickly go into it. It's not going to take super duper long, so let's kind of do that. I'm going to lower the sound a little bit just because I don't know how loud it's going to be. But yeah. So yeah, this is basically just one sample pitched a bunch of different ways and processed really differently throughout. But yeah, the original samples from like a phase 1 sample pack from like, I'm not sure when. It might be a few years ago or it might be relatively recent. I'm not entirely sure. But I found this sample, and I'm not generally using samples in my intros or anything like that, but for this track, it worked. So I kind of stuck to it. I'm not the biggest fan of sampling, especially when I don't resample that much. Here I really didn't resample that much, but it just worked. So I think sometimes you just have to let the music do what it does. The like mix sound is not perfect, but I don't really feel like it necessarily needs to be. I feel like the kick clashes a little bit with this, but I think it's okay. It's not like the biggest deal in the world. And also I kind of like that it sounds a bit messy. That's sort of how I write music a lot of the time. I don't write it to be perfect. I write it to be music, I guess. And music doesn't really have to be perfect. That's just my opinion, but yeah. Yeah, so sub 808, pretty straightforward, you know, EQ. Definitely did some weird channel EQ stuff, but this sounds really, the channel EQ sounds pretty sick. It's kind of undoing some of the work that I did here, but I think it sounds good, so it's fine. OTT, saturator, frequency shifter, but that's only for the build up. And oh yeah, I did use it, but I resampled it, so there you go. But yeah, we'll go into the serum. I'm using pretty much serum 2 for everything that isn't sampled, obviously. Sub is going to be a triangle wave into some noise, into some filtering, low pass 12. I like filtering on subs. It sounds, I think, a little bit better than EQing, but it's a different way to achieve, you know, a certain sound, if you will. But yeah, anyways, this is what the sub sounds with 0 effects. Sounds really big and sick, but not what I was going for. So just have some distortion, overdrive 4 or stack 4, drive not even really that turned up, mix all the way up, all that good stuff. Going into like a straight compressor. I don't remember what I switched about it, or if I even switched anything, or if it was even meant to be there in the first place. Not really sure. But yeah, compressor. Definitely fattens it up. Brings out a little bit of that high end too, which is nice. Another distortion. Stack. Drive up a little more than previously. That's about it. And then going into a multi-band compressor. That's what really gives it that like high end that I really like about this sub. I'm freezing everything just so my computer doesn't explode. It's kind of annoying to do, but trust me, this project file sometimes reaches like 1,000% CPU. How? I don't even know, but it does do that. So yeah. Anyways, we're going to skip to the end of the buildup. Honestly, nothing crazy to see here. I did use this whole sample. I tried to switch it out, but it just kind of worked. You can probably see like here that I tried to use something different, but honestly, this just fit perfect. So, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I think I wrote this song with this in it, and so by the time I wanted to try to take it out of it, it was sort of glued into the whole project, and it didn't really make that much sense to take it off. So I never did. But yeah, it works, and I use some of the same drums in the build-up, chopped them up a little bit, and then just duplicated the, you know, these, I don't know what to call these, the melody of the intro. All right, so first bass that we are going to look at is this like growl / long boy type thing. It's pretty sick. I pretty much created every single bass in the project from that one bass. And yeah, so if you want to sort of work out how I made this track, just pretty much get this first bass and then you can figure out the rest from there. It's really like literally just copy pasted everywhere, just tweaked differently. So we're gonna have that sub 0, no minus or plus, just because I write everything at 0. Whenever I write basses, everything's at 0, so I don't have to pitch it up or down. I can play it at the octave that it's at, and then any plus or minus, I don't have to do like weird calculations to know which octave I'm actually hitting, pretty much. Like if I'm hitting +3, I'm actually hitting +3 octaves. So that's why I do it that way. I know a lot of people don't do it that way. I don't know if it makes a ton of a difference or any difference at all, but for me, that's just what's worked for like 7 years, so it's all good. All right, so sub going into wavetable 1, which is going to be your analog BD sine. It's an old wavetable from like Serum 1. FM from B. B is just default shapes, sine wave, as bare bones as you can get. Unison 2. Why did I do that? No idea. Guess it just sounds good. +3 on the oscillator. This usually helps with the FM, and also because this is also outputting sound, it's going to help with that too. If I reset it to... Right. Anyways, it does make a pretty big difference, especially when you add in stuff like pitch modulation, which for this I'm going LFO2. Where's my LFO2? Into main tuning, previously called master tuning, but we're switching everything. Yeah, even in Ableton. I used to be on Ableton 10 for like 5 years, and it was always called master, and now it's called main. Yep. That's kind of that. That's where we're at. So, yeah. Anyways, let's go into all these effects. So, we're going to have our big distortion, but let's hear it without all the effects first. Definitely a cool, like, could be used in, like, deep dub type sound. Definitely cool, but not what I was looking for this. Very cool, again, but, again, not what I'm looking for. So, yeah. Overdrive, stack 4, drive at about, like, 52%, mix all the way up. Then we're splitting the highs and the low. Reason is I'm using a convolver. And you don't really want that to go on the low end. Honestly, it might sound sick if you do put it on the low end. We can even try it. Definitely sounds weird. Not what I'm looking for. Then you're going to get your like filter. In this case, it's a Combs. Nothing insane here. You know, cut off 27. I'm not going to go into all the finer details. It doesn't matter. As long as you get a Combs and you sort of figure out where you sort of want those frequencies to sit, the resonance, all that, you can make pretty much any sound. The Combs is actually getting volume. LFO1 is going to the mix. just so it's not always present. I think that's for the tail, but I'm not entirely sure because there is still like a lot of tail to the sound. Compressor, multiband, classic. I think I tweaked quite a few settings just to get it where I wanted, but yeah, I just kind of tweak until I hear what I'm looking for, and that's about it. Don't really think too much about it. Another distortion. This one is way emphasized. We have stack 4, drive all the way, mix all the way. And then we're going to have a filter, notch filter. I don't usually use notch filters, but I think it sounded pretty sick here. LFO1 is modulating mix and cutoff. So yeah, takes away frequencies, but by taking away frequency, you kind of add frequencies. It's kind of weird, but it sort of works out that way. And then lastly, we're going to have that soft clip distortion. Drive is at like 25%, 22%, mix all the way up. Nothing crazy here, but that's the sound. Then we're going to get into the actual like guns. So this is the gun that modeled pretty much every other gun in this song. So we'll just give it a quick listen. Big thing to mention here is that I am using the sub straight out of this bass. I don't have a separate sub. In the past, I've mostly used separate subs, sometimes using subs from basses, but it's pretty rare. Nowadays, I'm kind of doing all at once, unless it just sounds too disgusting and I can't do it, which does happen, but not a ton. For me, it's kind of interesting to be able to do everything in Serum and then, you know, add the effects under it after. But you really get to like a full sound right away and you don't have to sort of mess around with a separate sub. But it can definitely be useful if you're using it as like a stylization tool, right? Like if you want a very particular sound out of your sub, you might not be able to get it if you're running it through like a bunch of weird effects like filters and really over-the-top compressions and convolvers. In this case, it doesn't really matter because I'm splitting the highs and the lows, but something to keep in mind for sure. And then this is the first bass, except different sub oscillator, like using a sine wave instead of a triangle wave. And then we're going into like a spectral oscillator, which is just a hi-hat sample from VR's pack from like, I don't know, 7 years ago, who knows. And then that's not getting FM'd, which is quite surprising, but I guess it works. And then we're sending it into a square wave, which we're automating with LFO1. And the LFO1 is just sort of a like typical pluck sort of sound, at least for this sort of BPM. And then going into filter 1, high 6. And it's cutting a lot of those lows and accentuating those highs because I'm boosting the drive and the resonance. But yeah, you really get a lot of weird tonalities when you boost frequencies that you generally don't. And especially with this, with the square wave, it's definitely adding a ton of like weird tonality to the sound. This is before going into any distortion at all. It still sounds really sick, but the distortion is definitely what makes the sound what it is. This a little bit. Anyways, so distortion into a splitter where I only have a convolve on the highs. Digital gated, I believe decay is like shortened. It's probably a lot higher when you put it on. Damp is turned all the way down, all that sort of stuff. Going into multiband compressor, which is adding a lot of high-end frequencies, which is really what you want with a lot of these sounds, especially if you're like combining a sub. Is really important to have that separation of sub and gun type thing. So yeah, definitely want to do that. going into a Combs filter, which sounds really bad. But when you add that last distortion, that's what sort of glues everything together. And this is just overdrive, stack 2, drive all the way up, mix all the way up. And that's really the final touch that gives this sound sort of all that power that it needs to stand out in the mix. Can look at this one quickly. But again, still modeled after that original gun bass, just tweaked, you know, the wavetable, probably the rate, maybe some of the filtering, right? I probably adjusted where the Combs is hitting, that sort of stuff, and then adjusted like the mix. But like a lot of my basses are just duplicated over and over, and I'm just tweaking little things here and there to get that different tonality and sound. And then I'm also adjusting a lot of the time like pitch automations, because I use a ton of pitch automations to get what I'm looking for, especially if I'm integrating a sub into that sound. I like to have my subs move quite a bit in pitch from up to down. That's something I picked up pretty early on with the Acorn project. That was something I did pretty much on every single song that I worked on for that project. Even some of the like rhythm stuff, I was doing it pretty heavy there too. But yeah, we can skip a little bit forward because there's some more like melodic type. But yeah, if we look at this closely, I think the biggest thing that we're going to notice is that I'm just adding a third wavetable. Still using all the same techniques as previously, and I probably adjusted some of these like LFO shapes and rate and stuff like that. That's definitely going to help. And I added a bright white. I'm not entirely sure why, I don't remember, but I'm sure it added something that I really wanted out of it. And then the filter is going to be like cutoff is going to be different. The mix from LFO1 is going to be different, but realistically, like, it's same sound, just with a saw wave +4, some noise, and some little things tweaked here and there. And the sub has changed like a little bit from this waveform to that waveform, which is a round rect. Not sure what that sort of looks like, because here it's not super obvious that it's even different, but you have probably like a straight sine wave and then a round rect, whatever that means. So, yep. Let's see. Can I show this? Yeah, it's the same bass. Just honestly, I'm just, you know, 16ths, triplets. That's what it's going to sound like. And I think it's just not pitched up as high as most of the other basses in the project. But yeah, it's sort of that sound. We can probably take a look at this really quick, which is a derivative of the original growl. But yeah, I'm pretty sure the only thing I changed is the sub and maybe some like a cutoff here and like mix levels. I don't even know if I switched the cutoff. Yeah, so that's kind of that. Anyways, I just want to check something. Okay, luckily my camera has not been hiding too much of serum. I'm just gonna be wary of that so that I don't hide important information that you might want. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm probably gonna put the patch for the first one growl and one gun bass in the description of the actual video. And I think I can do it on the stream too. So if you want to sort of download the bases and sort of use them for yourself, that's totally fine. And then in the future, I'll probably charge for those just because, yeah, I probably should. But for now, it's okay. First one, we'll do it. All good. So, all right, let's move on to that second drop here. It's probably my favorite drop of the song. I didn't really go into like drums too much, but there's nothing like really intricate or crazy about my drum processing. It's literally a glue compressor. That's pretty much it. And then maybe some like transient shaping somewhere, but honestly, I guess it didn't even need it because I didn't end up using it. So there you go. But yeah, nothing crazy. I'll play the drums real quick, but it's just basic Tearout drums. It's all good. Oh, I do like a reverse kick sometimes too, like to get into the action. It can help with energy. Just try not to overuse it too much, and you should be good to go. There it is. Anyway, so that is the second drop. We can sort of take a look at that first growl hit. It's not going to be too different from the first one, but still take a look at it. Yeah, so we have different wavetables now. Basic MG. You know, some little things are going to be tweaked. LFO1 on FM might be tweaked from the original. +2 on the oscillator. All that sort of stuff. Like, it's just about learning which effects are gonna have some sort of a difference, and if you don't know what effects are gonna make what difference, then just try out a million things until you get sort of a desired sound, and eventually you'll get better at, you know, knowing which effects are consistently going to give you certain outcomes. That's sort of how I learned a lot of my sound design, is not really reading any manuals. I've never read the Serum 1 or 2 manual. I might this time around just because I've advanced quite a bit from where I was like 5 years ago to now. So it might actually be useful to go through and learn some of the more like intricate details of sort of how the back end of Serum works, right? Like some of the Matrix stuff there might be some like cool stuff in the Matrix I don't know about. But yeah, you know, still, I think what is really changing some of these sounds is, like the pitch automation taking like way longer, like 2 bars, 4 bars, half a bar, 1 bar. That sort of really helps these sounds sort of stand out. And if you're going to make growls, that is sort of a good way to go about it, is to have these volume automations that are quite, you know, accentuated. From like 100 to 0 in like 2 bars is quite a drastic shift. So yeah, we can go into this. So I'm using a little bit more like melodic guns if you want. Keeping that like giant sub that I really like. It's really kind of what made this entire track, is just having this really blown out distorted sub and mixing it with these super high frequencies. It just ended up sounding super sick. Oh, I didn't even notice that there was an EQ on the new saturator. I just got like Ableton 12 like a week ago, so I didn't even get a chance to dive into all the new stuff there is, because I was producing on Ableton 10 for like 5 to 7 years. Actually, no. I started on Ableton 9 for 2 years, probably. Yeah, probably like 6 years on Ableton 10. But I liked Ableton 10 a lot. I didn't feel like I wanted to switch too much. But yeah, Serum 12 is pretty good. But I just don't... There's not that much new stuff, or as much as I would want there to be, in my opinion. Like, if Ableton was the way FL is, where you get free updates, I think Ableton would be a lot better for it. But I also understand that Ableton is a private company who wants to make money. And if you're releasing a DAW update every year, then it's like understandable that you want to make people pay for it. I get it, but I do think free updates for life would be sick. Shout out FL, I guess, for that. But yeah, let's keep going here on that second drop, and then we'll call it a day, because it's been long for me also. I think the growls here are really interesting. Like, they sound really sick. So let's take a look at them real quick. Yeah, so again, the pitch automation is really what's making that like extreme sort of sound happen. And then switching some wavetables around. Like, a lot of the time, if you don't know what to switch, like, wavetables are a good place to start. If you're using like Combs filters, that's going to be a really good place to tweak up or down a little bit. And then FM, you know, how much or how little it's being affected. Pitch on your what is it? I don't even know the terms, to be honest. I don't really think about them too often, but my modulating oscillator, I guess, the B oscillator. So yeah. And then I don't know if I've had a band 24 filter before, or if that's always been there, but could be different. Yeah. Definitely sounds sick though. And still keeping that huge distortion sub. Oh, I think in this, I'm using a different sample too on the spectral oscillator. I guess I started switching here. And then we have like a different oscillator B wavetable, that sort of thing. LFO shape is very different from how it started out. It's also, the rate is longer. Rate on the LFO2 is most likely a little bit longer than it started out being. Combs filter, yeah. Yeah, but honestly, like, one of the most important parts for a lot of my sounds is going to be the main tuning. I think that's such a useful trick if you want to have variety in how your sounds sort of hit. Super useful. And then if you apply like a lot of the other stuff that I'm doing with some of these sounds, like, it's really going to make you stand out, I think, anyways. Okay, so here I should talk about something very quickly. So here I go from, like, you know, the more traditional Tearout kick snare type thing to a kick clap, right, rhythm type beat. But the way that I transition into that is incredibly simple, but also incredibly effective. So I just put one clap before the first bar where we're actually kicking into like rhythm type thing. So yeah. And it's just giving like the listener a warning, like, hey, you've heard this snare forever, but here's a clap. It's coming. Get ready. I'm pretty sure it's not even there. It's here. I'm actually using a crash instead of a hi-hat pretty much to get that same rhythm timing. I think it kind of works. But I could have probably put a hi-hat too. I don't know if I ever tried to do it and it just didn't sound that great, so I took it out, but I'm not sure. But it's something to try if you ever want to do this sort of drop, switch up type thing. Yeah. Can be good, can also suck, but yeah, just go with your gut here. Super messy bass, but honestly, you hear none of that in the actual mix, so it doesn't matter. All right, so we'll just go over these like super quick, and then I'm gonna call it a day. So yeah, I'm not really focusing on the effects like under the serum, just because I don't really care, and I don't think that they make a too giant difference. The OTT might, but pretty much everybody uses OTT, so I don't really feel like covering it too much. It's like, okay, well, it's just like a thing that most people do. Yeah, it's all good. Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure I'm still using the same sample, using a square wave +4, all that sort of thing. LFO rate is still pretty long at 1 bar. We might be doing some stuff with the cutoff, I'm assuming a little bit. That's pretty much it. But yeah, I'm pretty sure the biggest thing that gives it that sort of rhythm, high pitch sort of thing is going to be the square wave with +4 octaves on it. And then lastly, this one here. I think this MIDI is kind of interesting to go over really quick. I'm not ending it like perfectly on grid, so it sounds very like staccato and stuff like that, while maintaining a lot of that triplets that I've been using throughout the song, but not exactly. There's a chance that some of these are actually like dotted or whatever the hell, but yeah, a lot of these, how I write this sort of section would just be trial and error. I just like adjust the length consistently and just like move it around a lot and just see like, oh, okay, this works, this doesn't work, oh, this is working out really well, this is not working out super well. It takes a really long time to do this sort of stuff, but I mean, if you can get it right, it's super worth it. And also like the sub kicks in whenever this sort of like all these oscillators stop, so that's why you get these like nice cool tails to these sounds. It's built by design and very intentionally, to be honest. But yeah, here just switching out like the oscillator again, the wavetable, but still keeping that square 4. I guess I moved it from oscillator B to C, probably because I'm definitely FMing, so I wanted to get the FM from this electric guitar wavetable and not from the square wave, and that made a pretty big difference. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the project file. It's not anything super insane, at least for my standards. I think this is pretty much just what I do every day. Humble brag, I guess, but you know, I've just spent a lot of time in Ableton, so by now this sort of feels like second nature for a lot of this stuff. But yeah, just don't forget to keep learning. I mean, this whole, you know, new experiment just started from if we go on like YouTube and we go like Odd Profit, right? he just made a video on how to use spectral synthesis to make insane guns or whatever it was. Where is it? Was it this? Serum, how to turn any sample into... Yeah, I think it was that. So I just sort of did a lot of the stuff that he did here. I don't even know if I copied the base exactly or not. And then I've just made my own versions of that same base throughout the last like 6 months and have found a way to make his base sound like my own, which I think is a skill in it of its own, right? Is to be able to take something that you're taught from another producer and then turn it into your own thing. Yeah, but if you can manage to do that, then I think that you're gonna be pretty good. You should be pretty damn good. But yeah, anyways, I hope that you check out the showcase, because I'm really happy to have like finally, you know, gotten some stuff out. It took way longer than I would have wanted or expected, but that's just how life is. Sometimes you don't really know. But yeah, anyways, hope you enjoyed and hope this was helpful, especially that last part. Definitely going to be more stuff like this to come. I'm going to do like a Patreon sort of thing where I'll give a lot of these lessons behind a paywall, just because as much as I want to give stuff out for free, I'm also at an age where it doesn't really make sense and I should make as much money from my skills as I can. So yeah, I mean, you're just not young forever. That's all it is. Anyways, thank you so much, and we will catch you in the next one, boys. Later.